There you go. Have a good
Thank
meeting.
you. Thanks so much. All right, so we are back in our regular session here, and we will start with public comment. Seeing no hands raised remotely, nor anyone in person here, we will move forward to student report.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've done some updates. So here's some updates from the past month at Scituate High School. First, our athletic update is that our football team won the Super Bowl on Thursday. Very exciting, so big shout out to them. And then about 2 weeks ago, we had...
Yeah.
We had students attend a MIAA Sportsmanship Summit at Gillette Stadium. Shout out to Joey Burke, Billy Robinson, Philip Linnell, Owen Hofford, Jane Ryan, Lila Devine, Clara Adams, Lauren Thompson, and Caden Levangie. Also, 52 Scituate High School seniors received the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. They've qualified for reduced tuition at a state school of their choice. And Mr. LaRanger and the administrative team celebrated with a presentation during WinBlog last week. Next up, on November 14th, the administrative team held a welcome aboard night for 8th graders. They welcomed all the 8th graders to the high school, and the event was well attended. And another exciting announcement is that the play The Curious Savage was sold out for all of their shows. That was held on November 22nd and November 23rd, and although I can go, I've heard it was a very great production and the students did an amazing job. And then we had our November Sailors of the Month. Congratulations to Will Larson, Molly Kate Scott, Jamil Adams, Kate Liebo, Jen Lopes, Katie Gill, and Sydney McLean. Sailor of the Month awards are given to students, and they can be nominated by teachers or peers. And then congratulations to the 3 winners of Scituate's 2024-2025 Veterans of Foreign War Voice of Democracy speech competition. And 3rd place was Ruthie Collins, 2nd place was Mason Alvarez, and 1st place was Anzelika Kadzim. So congratulations to all of them. And congratulations to Ms. Shan Jiang on being selected as the 1st place recipient of the Award for Excellence in the Application of International Chinese Language Education Standards in Curriculum Design. Another award goes to Autumn Laverne, a Scituate High School junior, who won the composition competition as part of the district audition at the Southeastern Senior District Music Festival. And also the following 5 students were recommended to audition for the Massachusetts Music Educators Association All-State Music Festival that will be held in March. They earned this recommendation with an outstanding audition. So congratulations to Nikolai Bokovich for his trumpet performance, Aiden Campbell for his bass vocal, Will Larson for his tenor vocal, Autumn Laverne for her bassoon performance, and Noah Shepard for his tuba performance. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, next I will turn it over to Dr. Rab, some donations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 2 donations to present this evening. I received a wonderful handwritten letter a couple of weeks ago. It says, please find a closed check for $1,000 as a donation in memory of my children and lifelong friend, Kevin Curtis. Kindly use this money for the benefit of the wrestling team. Thank you, Jeffrey Wilkinson. So very pleased to accept that donation. I did email him. He's down in Florida right now. I did email him, and he was very happy to receive the check, and I assured him that the funds would go directly to the wrestling team. So they're excited to have it. And the second one is a $50 donation to Scituate High School from the Black Cloud Giving Fund through Blue Cross. We did go online to try to find out who the actual employee at Blue Cross was that donated the money. We couldn't figure it out. So for right now, I'm treating it as an anonymous donation and taking the $50. So thank you very much to whoever that was at Blue Cross, and that will certainly be used at the discretion of Mr. Manager here.
Excellent. All right, so it looks like we have approval for each of those very generous, kind donations. Take a motion first on the Jeffrey C. Wilkins donation.
You want to do it?
No, you do it.
I make a motion that the school committee
vote to approve the donation from Jeffrey C. Wilkinson in memory of Kevin Curtis to the Scituate High School wrestling team.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion that the school committee vote to approve the donation from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts to Scituate High School.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we have Celebrate Student Learning with Ms. Lesniak from our History and Social Studies Department. Chair up.
All right, well, thanks for having me. I'm here to sort of give you an update on the Social Studies Department this year and tell you a little bit about where we're at, what we're doing, and I think mostly about our textbook pilot that we're going through this year. So this is just a little bit of background. I know you guys have been through this with science and then with math, but sort of where we're at right now in this process. Last year we went through a learn and prepare phase. This year we're actually looking at resources and seeing which ones are the best fit for us. Over the summer we'll be preparing to implement those with the hope of rolling out in September of next year. And then obviously that continuing to monitor for effectiveness is sort of ongoing from then on. Just a little bit about what we did last year. So last year was my first year in the role, and knowing that we would be up for this curriculum revision, the first thing we really wanted to do was look at our department mission. And before we looked at any resources and before we looked at anything else, sort of like, what is the big picture of what we're doing here? And are we helping students to leave us with the skills that they need in the world? So Mr. Lynch, if you actually could go forward one slide. This is sort of what we came up with, and this was our big picture of what we hope a graduate of Scituate High School and the Social Studies Department can do. We hope that they're an informed and engaged global citizen with all of these different sub-skills that really come together that help people to be ready to participate in our democracy. And we wanted to do this first because we felt like we understand we have to teach the standards, we understand that resources need to align with those, but we also want to make sure that it's doing these things too. So that was sort of our big picture last year. Along with that, last year we also really looked at, just back a little bit, we looked at what's going on in our department, strengths and challenges. Oh, thanks, Mr. Lynch. I know, I'm a picky navigator, I'm sorry. No, just a little bit of what we did last year. We obviously went through our curriculum, we analyzed strengths and challenges, we went through our writing and how that was working. I wanted to highlight the biggest thing we sort of realized as we looked at our curriculum and resources is the age of our resources. Many of our resources were adopted in the early 2000s, some as early as 2001. And so they end with things like the World Wide Web is going to revolutionize the world. Which is like, they were right, and we laugh at it, but like, that is not a high quality instructional material, especially when you consider that our standards were updated in 2018. So clearly there was some work to do. And so last year we sort of made a plan for that. This year, it's obviously a slide full of all the steps we're currently undergoing. The check marks are ones we've done, the bullets are ones that are ongoing. Big picture, we cast a wide net to see what resources are out there, what DESE has recommended, what other districts are doing. Then we ran those through some non-negotiables for us. We had 3. One is that it obviously is standards aligned. One is that it's appropriate reading level for students. And the third is that it's operated in both a digital and a paper version. So from there, we sort of looked at all the books. In our November PD day, teachers went through all those books, selected 2 per course based on a rubric that we had created, and they're going to be piloting those between now and March. Students are going to be asked for feedback, teachers are going to be asked for feedback, as well as looking at sort of the achievement of how students do in those units. We're going to take all of that in March, and I'm sort of like just giving a high level overview, I suppose, all of that in March, and we're going to synthesize it, and we're going to say what's one new resource that we would really benefit from and that students would benefit from in each course. So every course, 6 to 12, is doing this as we're going. Over the summer, I think it's really important if we're selecting in March what we want to do. Obviously, we'll be working to purchase those resources with Mr. Rabb, but over the summer, it's having time for teachers to participate in PD about those resources. It's really giving ample time for them to adjust their instructional materials so that we are ready to roll in September. And that is, we're currently on track for that and excited for that. And then in the future, obviously monitoring how it's going. I think once we implement a new resource, we're really going to have to be checking in with students, with teachers, how is it going, and what adjustments do we need to make as we go. And then obviously after we implement a new resource, and this is something that we all the time anyway, but monitoring the effectiveness, we never want to get to a place where we have materials that are as old as what we currently have, and so we want to be sure that we're on the ball and adjusting as needed as we go. So that's sort of I'm not going to call it all-consuming, but that's a pretty all-consuming chunk of what we're doing this year. But as I mentioned before you, I don't want you to think that that's all we do. So just a couple other highlights for the social studies department. We spent a good chunk of time last year in some of our professional development talking about writing and analytical writing. We had a great PD session with our ELA counterparts. When you actually look at our standards, they're almost mirror images when you look at analytical writing. So we wanted to be sure that we're using common vocabulary and we're using common practices as we instruct it with students. And we're really excited that that's rolling out this year, and we're continuing to adjust our instruction and assessment of writing. Another thing we're really excited about, I know I come before you a lot to talk about these, but our civic action projects are happening again this year. We have a kickoff event on Wednesday, which I know many of you are coming to, but really we have 23 community members coming in this year, which we're really excited about, ranging all the way from, our police chief to people volunteering at different boards to people who started nonprofits. So it's really exciting. They're coming in, they're gonna get kids excited, and then we're gonna showcase all those great projects in May. And then the last thing we're sort of really excited about is we're continuing to expand our AP offerings in social studies. Last year we added, if you remember, AP Comparative Government to give a more global approach, and AP Seminar, which is a skills-based course. We're in the process right now for next year of adding AP Research, which will launch next year. That will be the second of a two-part. I think I came before you last year and talked about a capstone program that students can go after if they're interested, where they take AP Seminar, AP Research, and 4 additional AP courses, and they can get that sort of diploma designation. So I think it's a really high-level offering for kids, and we're continuing to sort of try and meet kids where they're at and where they're interested in, and offer them things that will help build their skills, but also expand their understanding of the world. So that's a lot, but that's what we're doing. But happy to answer any questions if you guys have them.
Thank you. I did receive a couple emails about the new curriculum, but my question is, how does it look in the classroom for the kids while you're looking at the 2 new textbooks?
Sure, it's a great question. So the first thing is that if I'm a student, we're starting, let's say, a new unit, I would hear my teacher say, hey, we're not going to use our regular resources this unit, we're going to use this new book, and let me show you what this looks like. Let me help you get logged into the digital platform. Let me show you some of the online tools that it has that maybe other ones haven't in the past. Let me give you a paper copy if that's what you need for the pilot. And then students would go through and actually, complete maybe a note-taking activity or watch one of the online resources, or maybe participate in some of the informal assessments that are part of that. And throughout it, teachers would be talking to students and saying, hey, how are you experiencing this? How's it going for you? At the end of it, students would complete a survey giving their feedback about the resource. So I think it's exciting because the ones we're piloting, all of them meet our expectations in terms of standards aligned and reading levels. So we know kids are still getting what they need, but it's a great opportunity, I think, for us to hear kids' feedback about what matters to them in the resources they're using, as well as hearing obviously from teachers too about if it's meeting their needs.
So depending on the topic, all the kids in the class will use the same new material. And then if there's another new topic down the road, they'll use all the new material in a different book.
Yeah, let me give you a concrete, I think it might be helpful. So I teach a US 2 section. Right now we're learning about the Great Depression. We're using one of the books as for students to help gather some information about that. Our next unit is going to be World War II. We're going to use a different book for that. And so we're still following our sequence, still hitting our curriculum, but with 2 different resources. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I guess one question I had is who is responsible for processing all the feedback and so on? Is it just you, or are the teachers involved in doing that?
No, it's a great question too. It's definitely a collaborative effort. So our March PD day is gonna be devoted to that effort because I think we really wanna make sure that all of the feedback is carefully considered. I didn't say it, but it was on there. I'm also going to school councils and getting caregiver feedback as well through the Gates and High School School Council. We wanna make sure that's included. And I was just actually at the Gates School Council and we talked about also really looking at the achievement of students with each resource and looking at our subgroups and saying, how does this resource meet the needs of all different types of learners? So I definitely wouldn't want to do that alone. I would want all my teachers looking at that and making a decision that's best for all kids in the grade.
I just want to give a shout out for this. I feel like this is a really exemplary process from the like mission statement development down to all different data sources that you're collecting. So I feel like that's really great. So thank you. And I have a kind of unrelated question. I was curious about, I think this year there was a new civics MCAS pilot, and I was just curious if you have like a top level kind of like headline from that process, and similarly, if you feel like you can do it on the spot, a couple like quick headlines on just in general how you feel like the data has been for your department on some of the assessments that have been ongoing.
Sure. So this upcoming year, we will be giving the civics MCAS to all 8th grade students. There's been a pilot of the civics MCAS for the past 5 years. We've participated in every year. Last year was the first mandatory pilot though, and as such, they gave us a very small sliver, and I want to say very small sliver of data from that. There's 2 parts, so high level is 2 parts. There's a basically essentially a multiple choice component, end of course assessment, and then a performance task. They gave us some data from the end of course assessment, 15 of the 40 questions or something. I would say overall, and again, they don't give us subgroup data, they just give us the whole school. We are exceeding the state average on, I want to say, I don't have the exact number, but I would say between 8 and 10% on most questions. There's a couple of questions where we're a little bit closer, one that we're a little bit below. And when we dug into that a little bit, it's really about pacing. Most of the questions dealt with stuff that was covered at the beginning of the year. One was dealing with something that actually happened after the MCAS took place. So that's a pacing thing that we're working on internally. And then this year, all 8th grade students will take that. But I think we're still going to get limited data back. Other data though, just as sort of high level, we did get some of our AP scores back. I don't have the exact data. I presented to you guys last year about our AP scores. I would say most courses are pretty consistent, a couple a little bit up, one a little bit down, but largely based on enrollment. So the one that we saw go down slightly, we had almost doubled the enrollment. So I think as we talk about expanding offerings, like we're gonna have to consider both of those things as we look at our data. Thank you.
Just a quick question. So I liked that you noted as one of the bullet points in the process was looking at what other districts or resources are. And I feel like the pilots are necessary and just really important component, obviously, to picking something that works for us, but living it is different than piloting it. And I think it's just a challenge, obviously, nothing anyone can do anything about. But I like that you called that out, as I feel like we're always looking like things are out there. Let's, talk to peers or outside of our district just to see what works when it's really in full motion. So have you learned anything from other districts or like with the materials that you've chosen to pilot? Like, so how did you just land on what the kids and teachers are using now?
Sure. So when we went through that first round, I told you we weeded out some books. Then when we were looking through all the ones that were left, we developed, I should have said this, before we looked at them, we developed a rubric based on Desi's rubric to evaluate each of the resources. And I also reached out to several towns around us too to see what their rubrics look like and make sure we weren't missing anything. I think the good news is, yes, there were some resources that came to us from that weren't on our initial list, which is great. And the other thing I think that puts us in a really great place is that a lot of districts around us maybe don't treat social studies in the same way that they treat other core subjects. And so what I noticed is a lot of districts using resources, I guess similar to where we've been in the past, that were not ones that were standards aligned or based on the new frameworks. So we took the good and sort of like left the rest as we collaborated with them. And then my plan, actually, I was just talking about this at the Gates School Council, is based on the ones we are piloting to reach out to towns that are using them right now and are living them, to your point of like, are you liking living with it or not so much?
Right.
And I think that's a good data point for us to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
You
All good.
all right. Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Lesniak, and for all your work. When Sam talks about November 5th and March 18th, these are full professional development days where she structures the time and uses their department meetings to collect feedback to move forward with this process. So she's done a tremendous amount of work. So we appreciate the progress that you've made and look forward to hearing about the decision later this year. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, we have our leadership report up next. Mr. Lemieux and Mr. Walter, you're up.
Leadership.
I know. Well, Bill was going
Bill's
to
not here.
intro you in that way. You've got us instead.
And I'll pull up the slides in just a second and give you this.
Great, thank you.
As we're pulling that up, I will say that, just how much work's been going on since the vote behind the scenes. I think is this the first time this is the second time maybe you've been before us since then, and so much work has been being done behind the scenes. And
Yeah, so we looked back, because we couldn't remember when we were here
Yeah.
last. It was actually August.
okay, so it's been a
So
while.
it was,
It's been a while.
not too long after
Yeah.
the vote. So yes, a lot has happened since then.
Quite a bit, but all good things.
Yes,
Very exciting
absolutely.
steps.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. Nice to be back. Yes, congratulations to Scituate football. We said on the way in, if I don't say something, I'm sure Nicole will, and she did.
I was nice.
You were very
this
nice, you
time.
were very nice. My son's been gone for years, so it's okay. Other teams can win, it's good. It's a great rivalry, though, I gotta tell you. Every
It is,
year,
it is
it's back and
fantastic.
forth, so.
See you next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So, enough of football. Tonight we're going to talk to you briefly about the project schedule, design process update, a little bit on the budget update, as we had said we would come back to you at milestones, so we've got some good news there. Don's going to give a summary of the design update since the SD phase, and then we'll open it up to all of you for questions. So this is the bar chart schedule that you've seen. As we said, time has been ticking away and there has been lots of progress. We are in the middle of or I should say just starting the last design phase. We've been through all of design development since we saw you last. We stopped at the end of design development and did a couple of estimates again, and we'll talk to you about that in just a second. But now we are in hip deep in the construction documents. There'll be another, we'll go to 60% construction documents and stop again, and then one more time at 90% before the job will be ready to go out for bidding.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
On the timeline, I've heard a couple of rumors around town that we're not on schedule, and we are on schedule. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
Completely on schedule.
Completely on schedule.
100%.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's fair to say we have not wavered from the schedule at all. So it's all been great news.
Thank you.
So in terms of what we've been doing, a lot of meetings, not only ourselves, Dora Whittier, with our consultants and our in-house people, but if you look up here, you can see we're meeting with faculty and staff, school building committee on at least a monthly basis, working group, same thing, which is a subset of the school building committee. There's a sustainability committee, which is talking about long-term use of the building as it relates to mechanical systems and also materials. We want to make sure that this building is very green, so that's something that's been ongoing. There's a playground working group that's been established that we've been talking with, and we'll touch on this a little bit later in a couple slides. And then a safety and security working group, which is made up of school administration and public safety and DPW. So we're making sure we're designing a building as it relates to site circulation and good viewing from the building from the inside out to try and minimize any security issues before they get into the building. And then, of course, discussion about how the building is cordoned off also, which we've had set for quite some time now. We actually have met with the high school and middle school librarians to go over the library media center, and that's progressed quite nicely. And then we've had informal meetings with planning and conservation to talk about upcoming submissions that will be happening with both of those groups. We plan to have something into them over the next couple of weeks. The thought is that we would start having meetings in January, February to go through that process. But because of those informal meetings we have, they've been very informational. We'd like to think we're in good shape with what we're submitting. We'll talk about the site plan a little bit when we get there. And then while we've been talking with Bob Vogel, the building commissioner, and some of these other meetings, we're going to have a separate sit down and go through all of the code analysis that we've done meeting, which is scheduled for, I think, next week. So it's, if not, the next couple of weeks.
So right there, right along with in tandem of are we on schedule? Yes. Are we on budget? Yes, absolutely. So as you recall, just kind of think back for a little bit, the budget that was approved by the town included, the building, all the site around it, but also some work to do the end vinyl force main. It included all of the energy code compliance measures that we talked about to comply with the opt-in energy code, included the Cushing School abatement, demo, and then leveling of the site. We've been able to start having discussions as a building committee about, how could we possibly do the Flannery Field as artificial turf, and some discussions about terrazzo floors kind of in the main public spaces as inside the entry in lieu of linoleum that's in the design. Well, why are we having those kind of discussions? Well, because the DD phase cost estimate was really great news. As we talked about, your budget was 119 million, but 95 of it's the construction cost. So along the way, we're going to stop a couple more times to talk about, okay, where's that number? The design development DD reconciled estimate came in at 92.5 million. Two estimates were done, put them together. The result of those estimates was 92.5 million. That's almost 2.8 million less than the schematic design budget. That's great news. That doesn't mean we run out and we spend the 2.8 million on other stuff right now, right? But you can start to have the discussions about, well, maybe we would be able to do the turf as an upgrade on bid day as an alternate. Again, you could always maybe still do it later, but then it becomes a change order. So we would still rather see it be competitively bid amongst the bidders. Same thing we talk about the flooring. We also it's good to have this little bit of cushion because we don't know what's going to happen to the construction market with the administration change in January. Tariffs and those sorts of things, we do have to be aware of them because the cost would be passed through to the owner. As an example, most of our steel on these projects typically comes from Canada. So if those things were to happen, it would impact cost. The good news is that we've got some buffer here to account for that. So again, what?
Can you order now?
Unfortunately, no, we can't do that now. But this is a very good spot to be. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but we have to keep. It's another. We talked about cost increases, right? It's just another thing that would increase costs. Escalation, normal escalation. Something else spikes. Nothing to do with tariffs. Someone has a supply issue somewhere with chips, and suddenly everything from air handlers to those sorts of things can be impacted. So it's good to have some buffer. We can start having discussions about what we could do with the buffer. But in the end of the day, just good news to let the committee know that we're, kind of marching along where this is exactly what we had hoped for. So, Dawn.
So just to talk about some of the design changes that have occurred and talk about how the building has progressed. Big change in the site plan, and really a very good change. Just to orient you, Ann Vinyl Road's down the bottom of the slide, obviously the building on the left, existing buildings on the right where you see all the parking. What we did through a lot of these meetings that we had with staff and these working groups is that we originally the hard surface playground that you see right where the cursor is was in between the pre-K parking, which is the lower lot, and the main surface parking lot. We actually had a lot of discussion about that and flipped that up to be right next to Flannery Field. The thought being that while Flannery Field is in use, you could also have students on the playground during the day, provide you with some variety. But for community use, equally as important is that if you have a sibling playing something out on the field, younger siblings could be on the hard surface playground where all the equipment is, and with that easy access for parents or caregivers going back and forth. With this, it actually allowed us to add 17 additional parking spaces to the site. So that's always a good thing too. More parking spaces, the better out here. The other thing that we did over on the right side of the slide, you can see where that green space, right where the cursor is, has gotten wider as it works its way down from north to south. What that has done is it's allowed us to leave some of the existing trees in place, which provide a natural buffer from the neighbors, and increase that buffer along there too. What's really nice about the way this site is set up is the houses that are over on the right, as they look out their backyards, because our site slopes away from right to left, goes down, they're going to be looking out over the top of the parking to, some of the building. So it's not like the cars will be in the face or the buildings will be in their face. So that becomes a little bit of a vista. The buffer will help to mitigate that even further. The down off of Ann Vinyl, and I'll show you this on another slide, we've actually been able to add a separate bus entrance off of Ann Vinyl that we can talk about here in a minute, so which is actually helping with the site circulation, not just on the site, but with the comings and goings on Ann Vinyl. I'll talk about that here. So this is obviously an aerial view, but this would be that view from those backyards that I was just mentioning. But if you were down at ground level, you would be looking out over the top of all this down to the building below.
Can I ask a quick question? Yep. Is the playground intended for all the kids, including the pre-K? I think there used to be a separate one.
So there's a mix. There's actually pre-K inside the southern courtyard.
Okay.
But there are also pre-K in the younger students in this lot that you see here.
Okay.
The older students, and there's another slide that's coming up. You see in the upper right-hand corner.
That's what that back
yes.
area is for older kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Adjacent to where they're located in the building.
Yep.
So in talking about the changes that we made on the site as it relates to circulation, again, Ann Vinyl on the bottom of the slide, the yellow is denoting a new school bus only entrance to the site. So it's allowing school buses to come in, drop off along the back of the building or pick up, and then circulate all the way back around the building and out to back out to Ann Vinyl. The blue are the parents or caregivers drop off coming in and looping around at the front of the building and going back out. And the purplish color here is actually pre-K. So that brings you into a separate lot. You can bring your child, park your car, walk them into the building, get back into your car, and go back out. By creating the separate bus entrance, what it's done is it's taken away the congestion that we were anticipating happening near Ann Vinyl, where if you were to come in at the main entrance and the buses were going to take an immediate left, you see that pink arrow, double arrow going back and forth. It's going to create potentially a bit of a logjam. What we've done is we've actually still set that up so that emergency vehicles could go on what we call grass structural turf. Similar to what we did at the Gate School out on the far side between the school and the vernal pool. So fire trucks could get in and out of there. In this case, emergency vehicles could circulate around, but it's grass, right? It's a grass paver that basically can support the weight of the fire apparatus. So that will not be open to the public. That's something that people would hopefully not be hopping the curb to go around there. So that's something that's been vetted with public safety, and they're on board with that. The other thing I do want to point out is down near the street, you see the green blobs. There's a wetland in that immediate lower left corner. So what we needed to do with the wetland and with the stormwater management is create bioretention basins down there before water is recharged back into the ground or into the stormwater system. So by doing all this, we've actually been able to keep all that bioretention, and the whole site, in the way it's working now, it seems to be actually doing quite well. Next.
I just have a quick question on the Boston entrance. So obviously the yellow is the Boston, that's one way. Is that road narrower than the?
So
the
the
drivers
road
going
is
through it?
still wide enough for two-way traffic.
Okay.
So what could happen if there is a large event, you could potentially have parallel parking along that and still allow emergency vehicles to get around.
I actually had asked because at first I was thinking that the solid blue line was just going to be fighting versus the buses, but that's going to be 2 lanes.
So the only conflict will be where the blue line is crossing over the yellow line, where they're coming in up near the playground, and then where the blue comes back out with the buses.
Right. Yeah, there's only a couple of
I
buses,
was
like
just
3 or
gonna
4
say that.
buses.
We
Right?
have, what,
Exactly,
eight
and
or nine?
if it's scheduled,
Eight
the
or
schedule is such that the buses come in, pick up, and go back out, then you minimize that.
Oh, they can't hear us. No. I was just confirming how many buses, but I think it's like 8 or 9 with the 2 schools combined.
But it might be, yeah,
That's the total
Yeah.
of the 2.
that's the most it can be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Mentioned the playground working group, and there have been some great discussions, as you can see from the takeaways here. More swings, actually less age 3-5 equipment in the grade K2 playground. We're trying to create more shaded areas throughout, and the south courtyard, which you see in the building footprint, that larger courtyard, wants some more accessible equipment there. In the upper part of the slide, you can see we've tried to build in some more basketball space, and that's actually not a 5A playground. It's a student playground. And, this has continued to progress, but this gives you a sense of some of the playground equipment that's been discussed.
I just had a question about who is part of the playground committee, if it's parents, students, teachers.
Yes.
Yes, all of those? Okay. It just seems like a great opportunity for kind of community involvement as
Right.
we're looking for ways to bring the 2 schools together. It feels like a nice way for, even if it was just a broader survey that goes home, to something to sort of start creating some excitement and buy-in amongst the communities in both schools.
Yeah, it really has been great. And that's what's led to a lot of what you're seeing up here. Because of what we always go through and do a first take based upon who we've talked to today. By opening up to more people, we get additional feedback that's helped to break these and carve these to where they are now. Some of the imagery, it's advanced. It's the same idea with the stone base that you're seeing here with the metal siding. Those vertical blue lines are shading devices for the windows. Really the feature, the hallmark of the building with the library media center that you see to the right with the big overhanging roof, next to the main entrance. The whole idea of education being on display is all really progressing nicely. We're really quite happy with how this is coming out. And a look from the bus loop, you can see the main entrance straight in next to the library media center. The administration's immediately adjacent to that. older student classrooms are to the right. I guess that's it.
I'm just curious, how much, because we always talk about, we have to work collectively with the town and so on and maintenance and so on. I know we built the turf back there. How much, I guess, grass or other maintenance will there be outside of the building that would be necessary? And like, how is that compared to what we have now at the single and or combined schools?
So the most maintenance that should take place out here is lawn mowing, right? We learned a lesson over at Gates where we had this wonderful planting out along the front of the building, and if it's not maintained, it doesn't do very well. We're minimizing that out here. While there still be plants, they're in terms of the maintenance of regular care, they're native plants, they're drought resistant plants. So that shouldn't need to occur.
Okay. But it would be accessible by lawnmowers, like the large lawnmowers that.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. You may have some push mowers in some areas, but the idea is to be as easy to maintain as possible.
It would be curious to see what the DPW says about how much time they spend at the two schools now, and then kind of what they might be some sort of time savings for them, I would think. Who knows?
In earlier iterations, there was a like outdoor classroom and maybe gardening area for kids that I think exists at both schools now. Is that still part of the plan?
So that's still occurring up in the northern courtyard right now. So the idea is that it's in a protected area during the school year. When school is out, when it's major growing season, the thought is that it could be on wheels and it could be wheeled outside the building so parents and volunteers can still maintain it throughout the summer.
In terms of like an outdoor classroom space, is that what that courtyard is intended to be?
So that is absolutely part of it. Still, the way the perimeter of the site is set up with the trees and the planting, there are places where they're not defined as outdoor classrooms. There's outdoor learning opportunities.
Great, thank you.
I think, anyone else questions? Like your updated traffic flow slide. I think that's really clear. to
Oh,
see.
good.
I like that. I hadn't seen that yet.
As you know,
Well done. Yeah.
Janice knows, there was a lot of discussion about
Yeah.
site circulation and traffic flow, and spent a lot of time with our traffic engineer, and we basically improved it beyond what they thought could work by
Yeah,
having these discussions, so we're thankful for that.
yeah, absolutely. Definitely collaborative, and, Bill was very, vocal about how
Mhm.
important traffic flow is, just based on Scituate and the history and it being a neighborhood school and respecting the neighbors and the neighborhood and everybody involved. So we appreciate the extra looks that were taken at to this
Absolutely.
plan, so. But I don't know, it's seeing that slide the first time, it was very easy to
Good.
see the intent and how it will flow.
Good.
So hopefully it
It doesn't mean it doesn't come without.
works in practice.
People getting used to it, right? That
Exactly.
Everything comes with,
Sure,
everything's gonna be different
Little
for a while,
adjustments.
but I'm sure it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Work well.
looks good. All right, appreciate
Thank you,
your
everybody.
time, thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mackey. Field trip for DECA. It is a 9. Yeah. All set.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
I just want to thank Chairperson Brandolini, the rest of the school committee, as well as Assistant Superintendent Lynch, for the opportunity to speak to you guys about the upcoming DECA business marketing competition. So this is going to be our 18th year. So, I mean, and I know some of you guys have seen this same presentation before, so if I'm redundant, please go ahead and feel free to stop me. But This will be our 18th year. Currently, our membership is we're still tracking numbers now, but we're over 130 high school students between the grades of 9 and 12. And that's up from last year where we had 99 students. And these aren't the numbers, these are just our membership numbers. These aren't the numbers that are attending the conference or the competition next month. We're still wrapping up registrations with that, but with that, we're tracking closer to 100, which is even up from last year as well. So basically, EDECA provides opportunities for our aspiring business and marketing students, the opportunity to apply what they're learning either through engaging and enriching PBL-based projects within our classrooms or through academic competitions, which is obviously what I'm here to talk about today. Our DECA district competition is going to be held at the Marriott Quincy, and I feel like I hope you guys have the handout that I.
Yeah, yes.
All right, good. So that's going to be held at the Marriott Quincy this year. It's going to be January 7th and 8th. The last several years it's been in December, but we've been asked this year from National DECA and our state advisor to include our written projects, which were never involved in our district competition. They were always kind of moved their way in advance to automatically the state competition in February, March. But this year they would like to see the written projects happen at our district competition. So it's been kind of a juggle to try to incorporate them as well. So now they're going to happen so our conference is going to happen in January. Our written projects that they're talking about typically come from our DECA marketing class. It's our full year honors level, CP level class that we offer. And that class just strictly works on business plans. Anything from startup business plans, which is coming up with your own idea for business and then trying to create a business plan around that. Very Shark Tank-like is what that class is about. Hence the word Shark Tank is in that class title. But we've also got community-based projects within that class as well, where students would rather go to a more community engagement process. So specifically, we've got a startup business plan that's going to go, an innovation business plan, which is again more Shark Tank-ish. We've got two groups that are working with local businesses that have taken on their social media advertising campaigns and have now built a project around that. We also have Anna Ryan, who's going to be bringing Morgan's message to the DECA district competition as a community-based project. We've also got the Women's Business Association bringing their initiatives that they brought into the high school with, trying to empower women in business. That's going to be a financial literacy project. So on top of all that, we've also have our independent and our team-based categories as well, and that's on the back page of the handout that I provided for you guys. And it's over 30 different business fields. So you can see it's everything from accounting to apparel and accessories to the restaurant industry to the hospitality industry to business law. There are so many different business fields that our business students have an opportunity to be able to engage in and compete in against 17 other high schools that are going to be involved in our district competition on the 7th and 8th. The competition itself consists of, if you're an individual or a team-based, not the written ones I just spoke of, the students are going to be taking a 100-question exam that's going to be based on their career field that they chose from one of those different categories there. That's going to happen in the building before they go off to the competition on January 7th and 8th. When they do go off to the competition on the 7th, they're going to be given 2 case study role plays that they'll have to problem solve in advance while they're there, and then they're going to present those to a judge. And a judge is somebody much like yourselves that have volunteered their day from their job and are there to listen to students be able to present, and they get scored on a rubric. Their scores are averaged out and they're ranked out within each of their categories, and that's when they see the next day how they advance off to if they potentially advance to the state conference or the state competition, which is going to be held at the Seaport this year in February. So that's in a nutshell what I know. I feel like I always say too much, but I don't know if you guys want to. I have a rough draft of the schedule if you want me to walk you through what that looks like. and again, I didn't want to be redundant with, okay.
Thank you, good.
All right, awesome.
We love DECA,
Okay, thank you.
or I do, but maybe I'm biased, I was a DECA member.
Everybody still asks me like what DECA stands for, and I try to explain it to them, and I get like a scrunchy
kind of
nose and a weird look. And so DECA, the acronym is Distributive Educational Clubs of America, which has nothing to do with like business and marketing.
Such a strange.
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
an
So it's like, I
interesting-
always feel like I'm like backpedaling and trying to re-explain what DECA actually is, but it's an opportunity, a great opportunity for our business students and our marketing students to be able to further their passion within this building, but then also too with this competition beyond this building, and then hopefully beyond, this building into the next building or their career path that they choose to go in. So
It's great, it's good real life experience.
I was just thinking this strikes me as something that we might want to be sharing when we
yeah.
have a goal of trying to be better about sharing some of the stuff that we get to learn about, but that the general public doesn't necessarily. And DECA is a great example of like a really neat thing that kids are doing that's ambitious and really fun and cool, and also just, a great example of kind of translating what's happening in the classroom into real life. So all that to say, we might be coming back to you for a little bit more content even, and photos if you have them.
Yeah,
just
perfect.
'cause
Yeah,
I think,
definitely.
like, to me, this is a really clear example of something that we've been talking about, doing a better job of sharing.
And I know our department head, Greg Ranieri, he, when he presents like the student success,
Celebration learning, yeah.
yes, exactly, thank you, Mr. Lynch. I know we came, I feel like it was towards the end of the last academic year where we presented a lot of, kind of the happenings within the business department, but not so directly related to DECA. So we had great success last year with our district competition. We had close to 40 kids qualify for the state competition. And then we had 3 students go off to internationals last year in Anaheim. So this year, the international conference is the end of April, and that's in Orlando this year. So fingers crossed we have, we can go back-to-back years with some representatives for international. So it's exciting. But yes, I will definitely come back and give shout outs to all those students and pictures and so on.
Okay, well, I think we have to suspend the JJH policy. Yes.
Was it 30 days?
It's 60.
I make a motion that the school committee suspend policy JJH, student travel.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I make a motion that the school committee vote to approve the DECA field trip to the Quincy Marriott as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I make a motion to reinstate policy JJH.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, great. Good luck.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. Thank you.
Policy subcommittee. I don't know if it's from 2018, so I don't know if you wanna
Yeah, we can have
put
it
it in your
list.
potentially, maybe there's a newer version, I don't know, maybe there isn't.
I think that is newer.
It's a long,
we-
putting it on your radar.
You said the
More
next one is
policy
in
fun.
April, right?
Just so we approve, like, we're
International.
approving a lot of trips these days, and I know there's more to come. And
Yeah.
I just wanna
Well,
make
you
sure
said
our
the ones in
policy is like
February.
efficient.
You can, come on up.
Oh, yeah, come on up.
I think you're gonna have to suspend the policy again.
It's okay.
No, only one a night.
I'll come back next time, no. I'm hoping you adore the Quebec trip as much as you adore DECA, and I can be super quick for you.
Some of us have children that have gone and loved it, so
Oh, well, that
that
helps.
helps you out.
That's awesome. So I'm here this evening to ask your approval to run our annual trip to Quebec for our 8th grade students in our French program. Hoping you had a chance to review the material, but at this point, I feel like you guys could present the material on my behalf. So you know how the World Language Department feels about educational travel and why it's important to us, and I know that you support that very much. We're traveling with the same company this year, Jump Street Tours. We have a wonderful working relationship with them and our rep Livia, and we are pairing up with Cohasset Middle School to keep the costs down. And that has been a wonderful relationship as well, so no changes there. I shared with you the itinerary. The kids had such a great time last year that we're actually using the same exact itinerary and just shifting the dates from May 8th to May 10th, as to not conflict with some music programming that happens at that time of year. So the trip details are all the same. You guys know that I really enjoy working with Jump Street because I feel like they are a really safe company to travel with. My favorite thing about them is how seriously they take our students' allergies and dietary restrictions into account when planning our itineraries. And I also love that they have a 24/7 doctor available to us when we travel international if we can't. You got to see what's included in the trip cost of $1,719 this year. That's pretty much everything, all inclusive of museums, trips, excursions. The only thing that doesn't include is breakfast on the way up to Canada and dinner on the way back home to Canada. If you guys were to approve tonight, we're ready to send out a sign-up link where students can pay the initial deposit of $149 and then incrementally pay off the rest of the trip. So questions you've asked me in the past are about insurance. You know that we have 2 options for that with Jump Street Tours. We continue to offer those 2 levels of insurance for our students and families. And the other question is about access for students. And we've gotten really creative to ensure that all of the students that would like to participate in this program are able to, and that money is not a factor for their participation. So I was really excited. Right before I came, we had 24 families show up for our interest meeting from Scituate, which is really good in a class of 30. So I'm really excited. Hoping we can move forward.
Thursday to Saturday?
It is Thursday to Saturday, yes. And it was that same Thursday to Saturday last year as well.
All right. Take a motion on. We don't, because it
No, no.
It's international.
doesn't say anything about it.
Maybe out of state.
I know, but then what is this? Athletic tournaments, art music festivals, and other similar student competitions that require an overnight stay or out-of-state travel are exempted, which is exempted even a word, from the time approval requirement.
Fine.
I'd like to request a review of all. No, the other one was.
Right, I know we did.
Yeah, but we probably do for this one. Let's just do it just.
Yeah.
We like to
Don't
follow
have
the
to-
rules.
Not a bad idea.
It's harmless. We'll just
I
suspend
know.
it.
It's 6 months ago.
I know. We'll just
It's like,
suspend it.
it's like 6 months in one day.
It really actually is.
It's fine.
It's technically. Well, wait, because you're not leaving until the 10th?
No,
Eight.
Oh, the 8th. This time.
Hmm.
Harmless
I
to
think it's
suspend it. Go ahead.
I make a motion that the school committee suspend policy JJH.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion that the school committee vote to approve the Quebec City field trip as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we're not done. I make a motion to reinstate policy JJH.
Yes.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. But where are you? Are you on mask?
Yeah.
See, that's probably more updated policy than ours. Yeah, but ours
Bring it
is,
over.
this was ours from 2018 and I don't know, that makes sense, right? It's more efficient. I don't know.
Fine.
It's fine. All right. Okay, we have our. Where are you going? All right, we have our elementary school principal team for a school improvement plan update. Thank you for your patience and being nice, like the agenda. That's mask.
This is 2000.
I know, that's even worse than ours. Ours is just really, I don't know, I feel like I trust our subcommittee to take a look at it. It's good, it's good.
So we're really excited to have the elementary principals here tonight to share an update on their school improvement plans. We recognize that these plans were approved last year. The plans are in place for the end of this year. The superintendent and I and the rest of the leadership team wanted to give an opportunity for the principals to do a school improvement plan update. And over the course of this year, we're all working together to make sure that our school improvement plan templates and process are, giving us the report outs that we need. So this is still based on the approved plan, and then back in the spring, Superintendent Burkett will share some input from the principals and a new template going forward that would be adopted for the following year. So I just want to give that update, and I'll turn this over to our principal team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me clearly. Certainly would like to reiterate the idea of our thanks in terms of inviting us here, and we're certainly excited to be able to share some updates with all of you this evening. So we'll just pause and just in the spirit of time, just allow the opportunity. Would you like me to go through each council member's name?
No, it's okay.
No, they have the
We got
whole
it.
deck.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, so I would just pause at this point and allow you
Sure.
to take a look at our council. Our council this year retains many of the members from last year, but we do have a few that are joining us this year that are new to the council, including myself. All right, so our first goal, I guess before we delve into the information in goal 1, I would like to thank the Cushing Council just for providing me with some background on our school improvement plan in terms of how it came into fruition, how it was developed, and essentially we've met twice this year, and we spent quite a bit of time on our school improvement plan. So they were very critical in terms of being able to kind of present this evening and give me as much information as I needed. So I think what is consistent across all 4 buildings that you'll see this evening are kind of 3 columns with what's new, our celebrations and things that we'd like to highlight, and also next steps, whether whether those are action steps that we haven't gotten to yet at this stage, kind of in year 2, or these are things that we want to go a little bit deeper with and explain to you a little bit more. So at Cushing, as I had shared earlier this year, we had an organizational change with 5th grade, which has allowed our teachers to become specialists in 5th grade in their particular content area. And as a result, students are acquiring a deeper understanding of skills and knowledge. More specifically, students are receiving tailored instruction, which should result in improved student outcomes. This adjustment is aligned with the other elementary schools, as I had shared previously, and has created a higher level of accountability for student learning, while also increasing the content that's being covered in 5th grade. Next, I think a notion that you had all heard back in the fall, the idea around student attendance and promoting student attendance, building relationships with students and families are things that are happening daily across kind of all stakeholders, sharing building-wide and district expectations through various communications, and addressing underlying issues causing chronic absenteeism, kind of with the school-based team, have been some action steps that we have been adamant about this year in the building. Next, administering the 2nd year of the PAIR survey. So the Cushing Social Emotional Development Team created the Perfect Pairing Mentoring Group last year, which was assigning students with an adult in the building, whether that was a new adult or an adult that they felt was a trusted adult. And there was some really good feedback that came from students, from staff, and it's certainly something that we're expanding on, but we're kind of creating these targeted groups this year based on the data that we are collecting through the survey. The implementation of a new WIN model. Previously at Cushing, extra 30-minute WIN blocks were integrated into the daily schedule, which sometimes impacted the timing of new student learning. This year, these math and literacy learning opportunities have been thoughtfully and intentionally embedded into weekly classroom schedules. Classroom teachers, curriculum specialists, and other staff are collaborating to provide Tier 2 instruction that are tailored to the students' instructional levels. As a result, students no longer miss direct classroom instruction or new learning opportunities. These WIN groups are flexible and are formed based on data that's collected, ensuring targeted and effective support. And then the last one in that first column is alignment of CPT blocks. So this was added because classroom teachers at Cushing are now being provided weekly opportunities to meet with our curriculum specialists. This too has created alignment with the other 3 buildings and has allowed for more frequent collaboration to discuss curriculum, address specific challenges, and to discuss student data. In terms of celebrations for our first goal, we have identified trends and patterns through analyzing student MCAS data from previous years. One identified area of growth that I believe at one point last year was added to the school improvement plan was in the area of 5th grade science. There had been a fluctuation of data over the past several years that resulted in a desire and kind of a sense of urgency to take a look at the breakdown of that data and determine whether or not adjustments needed to be made to curriculum or how we were delivering instruction. So we feel strongly that the 5th grade being departmentalized and also there being a focus and an emphasis on this during CPT times will increase our data in this one specific area. I'll skip over the middle one, the pair, because I've already addressed that. And the one of the, I guess, outcomes or takeaways from the pair survey was that the shared value, or I guess one of the things that we're feeling strongly about is that building relationships is kind of an element that's been there in the last 2 years. Students feel strongly about not just their ability to do so, but they feel like that's what makes Cushing really special, their relationships with both students and staff. So we wanted to be able to celebrate that tonight. And then next steps. So again, analyzing kind of the pair survey. So when we think about social emotional data and the well-being of our students, we want to take a look at those trends and the patterns from year 1, and also compare that to kind of our pre-assessment and our post-assessment this year. We have been involved with Jenkins in virtual sessions. Thank you, Mary and the staff, for the S3 Academy. This work is really, really important. It's listed on our school improvement plan as kind of being implemented currently, but we're really in a phase right now where we're learning and we're asking questions and trying to determine common language and common practice so that we're ready for full implementation when our time comes. So I wanted to make sure that that was clear around where we are with the multi-tiered system of support framework. And then we know that there's continued work that needs to be done with our district curriculum coordinators in terms of professional development and planning kind of for the second half of the year, whether that falls under staff meeting times or with kind of our full district professional development days. Goal 2 is around the idea of inclusivity, and inclusivity I feel like has evolved certainly over the last 10, 15 years in public education. It's no longer, just ensuring that that child is getting invited into the recess activity. It's much more than that. And I wanted to talk a little bit more around kind of what we're celebrating and what we're looking ahead to continuing to get better at. Providing additional opportunities for all students to access both in-school and out-of-school programming. I put an example. We had a remarkable event that was put on by the PTO in the fall. It's called the Pumpkin Stroll. It was extremely well attended, but we incorporated a sensory block at the beginning of it. So any student that felt that might have been hesitant to attend when it was dark out or attend when there was a lot of music or a lot of adults and kids running around, it provided them a window of time at the start of it where, all of those factors were essentially eliminated. And that was open to any student, and it would be something that moving forward we would want to continue to hopefully offer. That second bullet is, again, thinking about other opportunities maybe that, haven't been at Cushing or at the district that we would want to consider, just to ensure that we're meeting kind of the diverse population and hopefully tapping into some student interests that may not have been there in years past. And then acknowledging and recognizing positive student behavior. That really kind of falls underneath me. I've started a practice where we are making phone calls home that are positive phone calls home. So you're not always hearing from the principal when things could be corrected or need to be improved. Our Thankful Thursday is over the morning announcements every Thursday. Staff throughout the week share out positives and recognize students when they are going above and beyond with our core values. And we've been kind of highlighting that in front of the entire school on Thursdays over the morning announcement. Our celebrations, we continue to have student-directed community meetings every month that focus on our core value and our mission. It's really, this has been really nice. This has been the practice for years, and I had always in my previous buildings facilitated those. It took a lot of time, a lot of effort, but I really feel like it's more meaningful when it's coming from the older kids. And Kate Martin and several other staff members do a great job of preparing our kids for those meetings. And that's a part of our school improvement plan, and it's something that we celebrate, and we want to make sure that we continue to sustain that. The PTO has been really intentional about their programming. We've had a few, I have to say the programming has been just so thoughtful and meaningful to our students and our staff. And I feel like it was important to highlight some of the disability awareness programs that have been provided to our students and our staff this year at Cushing. And then again, the work that the PBIS team is doing to reinforce positive behavior in the school, but also the work that they're doing to get the students ready for those community meetings that are happening every month. And then I guess in summary, sorry, I want to make sure that everyone has enough time, that the next steps, we're really looking for opportunities. Are we reaching our students who reside in Boston? And obviously, that's questions around kind of transportation and costs. That's something that I feel like might be applicable to all four of the buildings. Are we doing enough in terms of, charity, fundraising, reaching out to those that are in need, whether it's Scituate or kind of our, our South Shore communities. And that was some feedback that had come up in school council. So it was a great conversation and things that we're, certainly considering kind of for the second half of the year. Again, this idea of bringing in keynote speakers around disability awareness and making sure that, that we're exposing our students to a variety of different disabilities and having those really important questions. And then recess. I think there's, certainly a wonder around can we be doing more, not just in terms of equipment, but can we be providing, not everyone loves physical education. Not everyone loves recess. Can we be providing other opportunities for students who might not be, your team-based or your competitive students in nature? And, how do we tap into those students that are looking for alternative recess activities?
Hello, everyone. I'm Christine Sheehan. I'm the principal of Hatherley School. This is just a snapshot of our newly formed school council. And I'm happy to say we have a couple of more people than we did last year. We were quite small, so I was really kind of thrilled about that. As you see here, our goals at all four schools are the same that we laid out, but I think what we wanted to highlight here is that the way that we reach those goals is individualized at each building. So while we have things that are similar, we also have things that are different. So for Hatherley, what's new based on this goal is that we spent a good deal of time last year through the the instructional leadership team, pushing out lessons during staff meetings about building background knowledge and really trying to tie that to our MyView curriculum and just doing a deeper dive there to make sure, like, instead of just this one read, what else can we build from here? So I was just in a kindergarten classroom this morning who had been reading about animals who migrate, and then the teacher pulled in a different article today that was about animals and ones who hibernate instead of, and it was just wonderful to hear 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds, I'm sorry, talking about hibernating, using the right words, talking about migrating, and that's really research-based in that building background knowledge really helps students to improve their comprehension. As Jessie mentioned, we had the second administration of the pair survey in the spring last year, and I think we're figuring out how to use that at that time, and now we did it again in the fall, and it really gives us a nice trend. Because before we only had the fall data for this, and now you can see certain students who you might have said, oh, maybe that was just a one day, like a once off, but then you see the trend over time. So for me, it was the first time you could really see those trends and see how kids are doing and how the school in general is doing. So that's been a real positive. For STAR, we are using the state benchmarks, which have a higher threshold for proficiency, so a higher standard to reach. This year, with the instructional leadership team, we started off the year by having a study of learner variability and presenting to the staff about the differences that you see in your students that are in front of you. And the whole conversation this year will be about how we address that, how we accommodate that. So we've had some great conversations at staff meetings about that. And also this year for our first PD day, second, third, fifth, Brian, I think had cross-district collaboration, which teachers have been asking for many, many years. And we're really appreciative to have that time and talk about best practices and what they're doing. So they were really happy with that. For our celebrations, just in our talk around background knowledge, our talk around learner variability, we're seeing an increase in small group instruction in Tier 1 across all the grade levels. And I just love to see that. Students getting that attention, getting that immediate feedback, being able to ask questions. So that's been a real positive. For our WIN groups, we've worked over the past 2 school years of aligning our WIN goals to student needs. So really taking the data that is presented and making sure that that's the skill that we're focusing on in WIN. Along with that, this year we've been talking about an increased challenge in WIN at all levels. So really making sure that our enrichment group is not just reading a novel, but doing work with that, producing something, doing research projects. Like we just had a lot of conversations with staff about what we're doing within those times to make sure that everybody's moving forward. And the other celebration is that we met our targets for chronic absenteeism. For last year is still something that we work on all the time, having that parent communication with people, but I was happy to see that. For our next steps, I mentioned that we were talking about learner variability, and that will go into co-teaching models. So what we want to do is really give teachers the skills. We have a lot of new teachers that a lot of this we covered years and years ago, but it might have been lost a little bit. Of what do you do, first of all, when you have another staff member in your classroom to make that effective? How do you get small groups going? How do you make sure that you're differentiating with the class? So we've had a lot of conversations around that so far, and that will continue throughout the year. In our common planning time meetings, we've been talking about writing, which I know when we presented MCAS data, we were talking about writing and really making sure that that is robust. And so just trying to make sure we have a vertical and horizontal alignment of that. So we're getting down to sentence structure, how can we make more complex sentences, leading to better paragraphs and essays, and what organizers are we using, and how can we work together to make that better. And of course, all of these things are there to raise achievement and growth. For our inclusion of all learners, last year was my first year as principal, so we really talked a lot about this. We developed our core values last year. And this year, what we're looking for is just to make those core values really a part of the conversation that we have with students all the time. Because I think that we made them last year, but we didn't talk about them enough. And so we want them to be just everything that we do. We have an increase of family events from last year. We're adding on the talent show, which is great because I was feeling a bit like a talent agent for the assemblies. And so now they'll have their time to do that, so that people are really excited that that's back. And we also, last year, new was the family folk dance night that was for grades 2 and 3, and we'll bring back bingo night this year. So it's nice to have that full complement, and then we always have literacy and math night in the spring. We introduced March Madness last year, which I know Wampatuck does, and maybe the other schools do too. And we really use that in March with reading books. We used our Character Strong books, but also to build the community piece of that. So we had each classroom teacher definitely had one guest reader, whether that was a parent or a community member, retired teachers who returned to visit students and read a story to them, but many had more than one throughout the month. So it was great to have people coming in and out and building that connection. Another thing that I'm really excited about is this Hornet Student Advisory, which we just created. That is based on what we saw in the peer survey. And as we were gathering certain things, like there's categories such as relationships with peers, relationships with adults. Trust is another one. And when we started sort of compiling a list of students that were even tier 1 students but had a difficulty there, we found that they were students that we don't often hear from, that they're a strong part of our community, but they're not the ones coming to my door saying, I think we should be doing this. And so I worked with the 4th and 5th grade teachers, and we came up with a group of about 15, and we expanded it beyond pair just to make sure that we had diverse voices in there. And we've had our first meeting, but they were so excited. They took a climate survey. We ran it like a real meeting with norms and all of those things, and just saying, how can you make Hatherley be a better place? So I think that's a really exciting new thing that we're doing. This year we had the Scituate High School students, the seniors, did a service day. So that was another great community connection. And last year we were able, through the Civic Action Project, to have GATE students helping with our newspaper club. So we're hoping to be able to continue that this year. Our celebrations is that for the peer survey, over 46% of students in grades 3 to 5 had school bonding as a strength, which is just so nice to see, because I think so much of what we're doing is to just make them want to be there in the first place. So I think that's a really important thing. And optimism increased from 19% to 35% of students who found that to be a strength. And that was a new one for us to pop up there at the top. And same as Jesse, I think our PTOs talk a lot. And so we have also had the enrichment focused on physical challenges this year. We have a population of our students who have many, many physical challenges. And so it's been a great opportunity to kind of open those conversations with students. In addition to that, our PBIS assemblies, which happen monthly, are really focused on being an ally. And so from the beginning of the year, I read a book to all the classes at the beginning of the year. It's about say something. If you see something that isn't nice, say something, and what are the things that you could say? So I think our Character Strong is great. We have that in the tier 1, that's working really well. And then trying to give students concrete action steps that they can use from those assemblies. For next steps, we want to increase the offerings of after-school clubs for all students. As Jesse mentioned, not all students can access our after-school clubs, so that is something that I think is a priority for us. And I would like to see strategies to increase school community participation at lit events. So these are events that, with the exception of This Is Our House, take place outside of the school day, and how can we increase that participation? So I have started going to make sure that I'm there, but not a lot of people are following me there. So I just want to make sure that how do we build that connection to make sure that everyone takes part in it, because they are incredible, really incredible. So, thank you.
It's on. Hi, I'm Mary Oldak. I'm the principal of Jenkins Elementary. This year we have 8 members of our school council, all but 3 of us are new. Kate Bowler is a parent and also our PTO co-chair, along with Sarah Fuchs, who's a parent representative, and Bethany Kenaway, who's a parent representative. Bethany's been on the school council for many, many years, so she also offers a tremendous amount of history about Jenkins and what's been tried over the years and what's worked and what hasn't worked. Kate Duffy is our community member. Kate just retired last year as a 5th grade teacher and was at Jenkins for almost 30 years. Mary Halland, a 3rd grade teacher. Megan Keith, who is a 1st-year kindergarten teacher for us. Trisha McDuno, who is a paraprofessional. And the co-chairs are Bethany Kenaway and me. As we look at our first goal, after we presented our school improvement plan to the school committee last November, I went back to our school council and talked about how we could integrate more to our school improvement plan to reflect what was important specifically to Jenkins. So as everyone has said already, some of the things that I'll be talking about are more district-wide. Some of them are Jenkins specific, but I'm going to just start with the celebration. When we look at the goal and we are saying that all learners will reach their unique potential by showing typical to high growth in district and state assessments, we need to be able to measure that. And so under celebrations, I worked with our curriculum coordinators and our literacy specialists around indicators for growth. Why do we focus on growth? Because we want to see that every child is growing and advancing regardless of what their baseline is. So in grades 3 to 5, we did see typical to high growth on our STAR reading and math assessments, and that's looking at these students from fall to fall, from the fall of 23 to the fall of 24. In grades 4 to 5, we talked about MCAS earlier on this year. We did see typical to high growth in both English language arts and math for 4th and 5th grade. Measuring growth for our younger grades is much more tricky because of the measurements that we have, the assessments that we use. The subtests change from grade to grade and sometimes throughout the year. So just looking at our 1st grade, 90% of our 1st graders were at core support on DIBELS. What does that mean? Core support means that they are supported and make progress with Tier 1 instruction. And that is looking at our 1st graders from the fall of kindergarten to the end of kindergarten. That's how we were able to pull that data. And 87% of them met that for our universal screener for number sense by the end of K. So kind of applying the same process for our current 2nd grade, 89% of our current 2nd graders were at core support for DIBELS at the end of, I'm sorry, that should say the end of 1st grade, I apologize there. And 85% benchmark on the universal screener for number sense at the end of 1st grade. So that's the celebration. We definitely see movement with the majority of our students. All of our students know that that needs to be our goal. So I'm gonna jump over to what's new. Over the summer, our teachers worked on curriculum improvements to support MyView and the supplements, and they were focusing on student engagement. And the reason for that is when we did administer the HSA last school year, school bonding and relationships with adults used to be a challenge area pretty much across the board. But what, as that kind of settled down, what popped up was engagement and learning. So our teachers were looking at how to amp up the MyView end of the unit projects and things like that around student and engagement, because that's a great example of how we use HSA data. Both Christine and Jesse have talked about how we've aligned our collaborative time across the elementary schools. That was a big change for Jenkins. We had 30 minutes of collaborative time over the recess lunch period. It's now shifted to 45 minutes during specials, so that's, and it runs on Tuesdays and Fridays, so it's a nice schedule for us to be able to follow and hit every grade level. The Jenkins Beacon Mentor Program, I think I've talked to you about this before. We're going into our third year with the mentor program. This is based upon students from the HSA who do identify school bonding and or relationships with adults at the challenge level. Last year we had 11 students in the program. 8 of them no longer met the criteria, which was a huge celebration at the end of the year, and that continued into the fall. And the 3 students who still hadn't quite moved beyond that made tremendous progress. The kids love it, the families love it, the teachers love it, and this year we have, we're in the process of looking at, we know who the students are, and going through permission slips and getting the program off the ground. Just wanted to also give a shout out to our PTO and also the Seaside condominium development. They took on donating over 130 social emotional learning books to go along with our Purposeful People program to our library last year, so that we have all of the trade books that go along with that. Our 5th grade student council has really been revitalized under Meg Bayard. I will be talking about what they've accomplished on the next slide. Next steps, Jenkins is very invested in being the elementary pilot for the MTSS effort in Scituate. We are well into our first year of a 3-year commitment with S3. Gates started last year with their first year, and we are getting ready to start piloting our whole child review process with one classroom from one of the members of our team. And we also have district level participation with Brian, Megan Gregory, and Heather Allen, kind of making sure that we're kind of calibrating as a district about where we're headed. And we also have all of the principals are invited to our content sessions, and we report out on that because they will hopefully be in year 1 next year. Going along with the advice and insights from our instructional leader team, we're refining our best practices with our WIN block and the efficacy of that around staffing, our groupings, and the focus areas. One area that has been an area of improvement is our groupings going within the grade level, inter-grade level groupings. So that's our first goal. And our second goal, what's new, our Shark assemblies, our PBIS assemblies have been revamped and reorganized to celebrate the Purposeful People themes each month. This month is empathy. Every student in the school receives, you can see the kids in the picture there, that's their certificate. Each student will receive a certificate nominated by their classroom teacher by the end of the school year. And it's about which theme fits them best. And I always tell the kids, it doesn't matter who gets it in September, and if you don't get it until June, it's about what fits you best. And we also have our lit team presenting every month. That's under Nicole Gracia, who runs that year-long club. Our PTO enrichment, we asked them to really focus on multicultural experiences this year. For example, we have a Native American storyteller coming and doing a K-2 assembly and then a 3 to 5 assembly. And we also have some training that we've worked on with Jamil Adams called Interrupt the Harm. And there have been 2 presentations to staff about how to respond in situations where microaggressions might be observed and how to manage those conversations with students and staff. So a big shout out to our 5th grade student council. Last year they raised $2,500 for the Max Vaccarino Fund for the Arts, which is very near and dear to the Jenkins community. And I promised the kids I would read this. They collected 1,412 pairs of socks, 2,620 diapers, and 580 pairs of underwear for the South Shore Foster Closet. Both of those fundraisers are underway right now. The Max Vaccarino fundraiser actually went over not just our theme days and donate $1, but also Valentine grams and different things. I think there were 4 different events that they collected and raised money for. The community was so generous. When we say donate $1, there were quite often bills in the bucket that were much bigger than $1. And thinking about our celebrations and the inclusion of all learners, you're just thinking about the students who are really interested in science. Our 5th grade team under Lisa Masterson, who's our 5th grade science and social studies teacher during Wind Block, ran an invention convention team for the Bridgewater State competition. And I feel like I might have told you this before, but I'll say it again. They came in 3rd out of, and there were teams 5th grade through 12th grade, and they came in 3rd. And their invention, I thought, was brilliant, was a biodegradable doggy refuse bag, shall we say, that had flower seeds in it. So it would biodegrade and flowers would blow. Wow. I thought that was brilliant. Next steps, just realized this has been pointing down this whole time. Next steps, there's been some talk and effort with our teachers with Boston students about getting an anchors program going at Jenkins, where there's more of a formalized family connection for the Boston families. Something we all struggle with is after school activities, things like the turkey trot or upcoming music concerts. We're a place for the students to stay. Sometimes they have formed friendships and spend the night. But trying to do something that's more formalized so that is more comprehensive. Jenkins has a really strong relationship with the Safe Routes to School through MassDOT. That's the program, or the Safe Routes to School, as Kim Brown won the Crossing Guard of the Year last year. And we're working with them through Julie Ward on getting grants for bike racks, and on our high priority wish list is some type of a beacon crossing system down where Gilson crosses, I guess that's 10th Street there. We have a lot of bike riders, and some of them come out of that neighborhood, probably close to a dozen, and that's a real safety concern that we've expressed to them. And increasing the diverse extracurricular club offerings. Our clubs do run before and after school. We had French Club last year, wildly successful. It ran for 2 sessions, everything from yoga to fiber arts. And we're just getting our winter session off the ground now. Jenkins does have a 3rd goal. And the reason for that is when
we looked at the school improvement plan and were thinking about how to make it more Jenkins specific. There's been a real focus in the last many years on campus improvements for our school, and I really appreciate the support of our Dr. Rapp, who's no longer isn't here right now, but the superintendent and just all of the Scituate community in helping us achieve the completion of our playground. Happened within 1 year. It came in under budget, and it was through a partnership with our PTO and the Town of Scituate Community Preservation Commission. We also had our roof replaced. I had been told that the roof had been leaking since the day the school opened. No longer leaks. So that's really exciting to our staff. And our huge shout out to our PTO. They provided just this past school year over $18,000 in new furnishings such as rugs, flexible seating, and books. And that was just through scholastic dollars. That's where your book fair money goes. What's new, our school garden was completely redone. We have new raised beds, an ADA compliant bed and entrance, seating for a whole class, and we relocated the Abby Tickner's beloved sunflower garden over here to this to the school garden. Abby retired from kindergarten last year. And just some real nuts and bolts, our communication, phone, and security systems have been fully repaired and are fully functional. And what we're looking forward to is getting our windows replaced this coming summer. Some of them do not close, some of them do not open. That's going to be a very big project that's underway, and very grateful to the Town of Scituate for their support of that project. And then just some refurbishing of the outdoor classroom space and some other things that need to be taken care of around the campus. But overall, Jenkins is looking very spiffy, and it's been because of the PTO and the Town of Scituate and the support of the community. So thank you for that.
I've been patiently waiting, just as all of you have, to hear from me, I'm sure. So the benefits of going last is a lot of the stuff we're doing have already been talked about. So I'm just going to go right through those, because a lot, even though each school is unique and has their own unique characteristics, we do have a lot of similarities. So this is our current school council. I know that you've looked at that. Some members are the same, some are new. But we have a great group. So our goal, same. Our goal is for every child to reach their unique potential by showing typical to high growth. So some of the things that are new, Christine talked about, we're now using the state standards. We're looking at the STAR benchmark data, which is really just a much clearer picture of our Scituate students and where they're at. We are doing a lot of conversations about attendance. Pretty much daily, I have conversations with people about attendance, and that's going to actually lead into a celebration in just a moment. And attendance for everybody, not just students, but staff as well, because we ask 180 days, come 180 days. If everybody showed up every day, imagine what we could do, right? If you're here, we can teach you, and so that is always my goal. We just need 180-day commitment from you, students and staff. Several colleagues here spoke about the holistic student assessment, the pre and post, now giving it twice a year. Again, it's a game changer. We can just see so much data. Our last staff meeting was dedicated solely to looking at this data and looking at comparing it from last year to this year, from the spring to the fall. And it's just great, the trends you can see, and really focus where our building needs support. And one of our biggest growths in my time at Wampatuck, and since I've been looking at this type of data, is school bonding. Our school bonding was a strength last year, and it continues to be a strength this year. So it just speaks great to our schools and our relationships. And then our ELA resource, My View, which I know we've had for a few years now. It's a huge resource. You could spend 180 days, 7 hours a day just teaching that resource and still not do everything that's in it. So it takes time, and we're really working to do a deep dive into that. So Mary spoke about the summer work. People work during the summer to do that work because it's hard to do it when you have kids in front of you and you have 45-minute specials a day and you have lunch and recess. And so we have teachers who work in the summer and they do get paid stipends to take deep dives into that. And then they do come and present at staff meetings to share with the rest of the staff. So that, and I see that we still have several years to go to really get that resource down to really be productive for us. Celebrations, we have increased our student attendance. All these conversations are working. I can say, I'm proud to say that at Wampatuck, we made gigantic improvements on our accountability in our chronic absenteeism across our whole aggregate and in all of our subgroups, which was great to see. Again, the comparing of the pre and post data for pair, and then just watching teachers grow. This is hard work. This is hard work that we do. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of brain power. And so just to watch veteran teachers and teachers that have been there for a long time, really still putting in this work to learn new resources and learn new curriculum and continuing always to try to grow and better their practice. So next steps for us is just to continue to focus on achievement and growth scores, and then to just continue this work in ELA. It all starts in tier 1, right? If we can really have our tier 1 instruction be just top notch, that is benefiting every single child in our school. The second goal is on inclusivity. This is a complete passion of mine. And we've done a lot of things in my short time at Wampatuck to prepare the building to be fully inclusive. We still have a ways to go, but we're on a great path. So some things we've implemented during this cycle of the school improvement plan is our Veterans Day lunch, huge success. 50 to 60 veterans coming to eat pizza, school pizza. It's definitely not the food they're coming for, but this has just become an awesome event. We decorate it, we set it with tablecloths. It's a very formal pizza and salad lunch. But it's wonderful. Veterans, we just get so much great feedback from them, and we allow them to share their story during their lunches, and they're just so appreciative. It's great. The high school mentors, I know others have talked about that. That is another amazing resource. We've had them come out in formal times, like the Senior Service Day, which was amazing. Another time they came out and shared stories of sort of their educational journey as they were getting ready to graduate, some of the struggles that they had dealt with throughout their journey and how they managed that. And then last year we were having some struggles with our 5th grade boys in particular, and we reached out to the high school and just said, can you send those mentors back, please? And they did. They came, and we're like, we just need, sometimes kids listen to kids more than they listen to adults. So it was great, and the high school is amazing. They're so good to work with us and make that work. We brought out St. Patrick's Day, very big event here in Scituate. Not sure if you all know that, but so we've been trying to also just celebrate that. Last year we had some a person come and play bagpipes, just walking through the halls of Wampatuck playing bagpipes. It was just great. So he's coming back this year, and we're going to make it a little more formal. Kids had so many questions, so we're going to make a little more formal event so that he can do a Q&A with all the students. And then our Wellness Day, a lot focused on just kind of dismantling disability bias, right? And sort of normalizing everyone's different, unique, and special, right? And it's not so much about having a disability, it's just we're all different, unique, and special. We all have different needs. So we had a Wellness Day last year. It was great, just brought in all kinds of people to run different events, just highlighting differences, but also wellness and how to sort of take care of yourself, self-care. Some of our big celebrations are our building updates. We are 1 day away from opening our brand new fully accessible nurses suite. I highly recommend you come take a peek at it. It's beautiful. It is the only fully ADA compliant bathroom in our whole building. So we're very proud of that. But it's just the beginning, right? It's just the beginning. We have more to come. In next steps, we have all of our student bathrooms are on the list to be done in the summer. So those will all be updated and new. And we are also working on putting all automatic doors within the whole building so that the doors are all accessible. We found out we had 2 sets of doors in the building that really had no purpose. So we were able to take those down because they created barriers, right? 2 sets of doors, total barriers. Those are now gone. And it's amazing. It's amazing the difference you see with the students who that has created a barrier for. Not just students with mobility challenges, but also little ones, right? Like little ones who can't get through the door and get back to class because it's too heavy. So we have those coming. We have a fully accessible ramp being put into our to one of our doors that goes out to one of our main playgrounds. Not accessible at all right now, but it will be very soon. And our kitchen serving area is being completely redone. Again, it's really made for adults, and that is going to be fully done in February, so fully accessible for our students. Our whole school assemblies, like others have talked about, the same. We have switched over to student-centered, student-directed. It's amazing what kids can do if you give them a stage and a microphone. That's really all they need, and they just can take it from there. And you know, as somebody who has been self-reflective and can be a bit of a control freak, it has taken some effort on my part to just turn those mics on and hand out 4 microphones. But it's amazing what they come up with. And so I'm beginning to let go a little bit. And then in PTO, we've added an inclusivity representative position on our board. This has been a game changer because it's hard to look at events through every single lens, right? So it's so helpful to have one person whose lens is this a fully inclusive event? And this is where, like Christine talked about, having sensory-friendly events, right? Like movie, you think about showing a movie in the cafeteria, and who wouldn't love that? Well, there's a lot of kids who wouldn't love that. Also, movies can be long, right? An hour and a half. So we had a whole separate room on our movie night, and we played 2 short movies, right? Volume was lower, smaller screen, lights were different, all those things. And that comes from our inclusivity rep has that lens. Next steps, one of the things we put in our school improvement plan was to create a standard of inclusion for all school events. We have not done that yet. And that I think is super important. So that is my goal for the rest of this year with the school council. We are going to need a new playground. So I'm hoping my friend Mary over here is going to help me figure out how to get a new playground. Because we have several playgrounds at Wampatuck. I know we're super blessed, but the upper playground over by the gym is not at all accessible. It's wood chips. There's a whole bunch of things. So we really need to look at that and think about how we're going to upgrade that. And then, like Christine talked about, increasing participation in our district-wide cultural events, the MLK and the Juneteenth. Great events. I've been to them. They're amazing, but we don't get a lot of participation from the elementary school. So we have the elementary schools represent as far as the presentation, but we really don't get a lot of families that go. So that is also one of my goals. And I had Janelle come and speak to our ILT. I'm working on this through my ILT. Janelle came and spoke about it, and so we have some good action steps on how to increase that participation. I do not have a third goal, so I think we're done, unless you have questions.
So I know you said the standard for inclusion. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was like, what are you thinking about with inclusion? Have you started noodling on that, or is that still to come?
So yes, in my brain, for sure. Yeah. The inclusivity rep helped, right? A little step, but a step in the right direction. Yeah. The building updates, because when you're in a building that is not fully accessible, you don't even think about it, right? You don't think about But now that we are starting to make these improvements, even I can hear the staff saying, wow, I never, like the doors, for example, right? The staff is like, wow, what a difference, just removing those doors, you know? Because one of those sets of doors went to our, like our whole kindergarten area. And some of those kids can't push those doors open, you know? So we're just talking about typically developing kids. So I think part of like the physical space is helping really start some conversation. Furniture, we're about to start looking at new furniture at Wampatuck, and we're talking about that too. Like, what is our furniture? We have a one size fits all pretty much right now, right? And we've had to really look at our cafeteria and how that is accessible, not only the serving area, but where kids sit. How they access, we have a salad bar. I don't know if you've been there, but it's really a salad bar for adults. It's really challenging for children, never mind somebody that might have a mobility. So for me, I just feel like we need every event we plan or we bring into the school, we need a process on how we look at it and how we vet it to make sure it is inclusive of anybody coming to our school, whether, like, I don't want to be trying to fix things like, let's say if we have a student with a vision impairment, we don't right now at Wampatuck, but if we did, they should be able to walk into our building and access our building. We shouldn't have to be making accommodations once they get there, you know? So I mean, I have a lot of ideas. I don't have them organized perfectly yet, but we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I love what you're saying, the physical space, that makes sense. I think I would encourage you to think too, if we're just talking about physical space, like what are the symbols and the pictures and the images that the kids are seeing on a day-to-day, and where are there opportunities to show, like, you know, to see it, to be it kind of idea, right? Whether it's ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, music versus physical, athletic, whatever the inclusive is. I think there's a real opportunity in physical space to put different kinds of pictures and things. So, because symbols matter, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to thank you all. I thought like those were great updates, and I feel like what was nice from, I think, I won't speak for everyone, but from my perspective was to feel like each of your independent passions and strengths were coming through, but also just to see that level of detail of all the amazing things that you're doing. I think I would particularly shout out the collaboration that's happening both within and across schools. That's amazing to see at the teacher level. The tweaks to the WIN model seem really important. And so it's really great to see each of you kind of tackling that in the way that your own school needs. I heard the concept of raising the bar a number of times, whether it was, you know, using the state standard on STAR or again, the tweaks of the WIN model or the learner variability stuff at Hatherley, like all of that is just so great to hear and really reassuring, I think, in terms of like, wow, you guys, I mean, I've always known you're doing a lot, but I think now you just showed us all the things you're really doing. So I think that was awesome. And I guess one question I had was whether some of these could be made available to the school communities. I think it might be nice for parents to be able to look. Not every parent would, but some might want to see some of the stuff on these slides. And it might just be a nice way for the average parent to kind of get a deeper, closer look at some of the stuff that's going on across all schools. So if you think that that's a good idea, I think I would encourage it. I just think, again, one of the things we've been talking about is how to help more people really understand all that goes into running schools well. And these presentations hit on so many different aspects of that.
I think one of the things that I think learned from listening to my colleagues is, you know, these are documents, these are fluid documents that, you know, drive the building essentially, and, you know, all the important work that we do. But I've never really taken it to the level of being able to share this out in a developmentally appropriate way with the students. And I heard that, I wasn't sure as to what building it came from, but, you know, to have these conversations during staff meetings with staff and making, you know, certain that they know what's on the plan and, you know, the action steps that are leading us towards, the ultimate 2 or 3 goals that we have. But to, share with our students, I think would be something that I would want to, transfer over into our building. And, I think it brings more meaning, more purpose, and, students understand kind of the big why as to why we do certain things both in and also outside of the classroom. So thank you to whoever shared that.
Great, thank you, appreciate the
Thank you.
update.
Yeah, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Do a better job than I did.
All right, so next up, just a little update here for, it seems a little bit not quite as timely as originally intended, to round up with our colleagues here in our meeting about the mass conference that took place actually in November. So just wanted to, I know Mr. Lynch attended, Slim Blom, myself, Superintendent Burkhead, and Ms. Fenwick. We intentionally sort of split up some of our time just to cover more ground as a group, and then just wanted to give some time and space to share out just a few quick, anything worth mentioning that we learned. I think we all had a good experience and had some good takeaways and some energizing ideas, which I suppose is the intent of the entire conference. And it was good to kind of speak to other colleagues in other districts as well and see what's working, what they're working on, different sort of points of interest there. So I don't know if anyone has anything in particular they wanted to share, or anyone wants to start us off with a few highlights of any of the sessions they attended. I did too.
I have a lot of notes too.
I know.
Maria probably has more notes.
No, I do have a lot of notes, but I think the main things that I wanted to share with the group were just like kind of particular. So one of the sessions I went to was on finance and budget. That's great. But there a couple of takeaways I had was that there's something called the Meritorious Budget Award. And I think that Tom should apply for it. Because I think he's doing a lot of it, from what I could tell, he's doing a lot of the things that they are looking for, and it's a really cool distinction for a district to have, and I think again would be an example of a way to show to the broader community that we're doing a lot of really good things on this aspect. So if he's not here, so I can follow up with him, but I thought, if it's not too much work, it seems like it might be worth it. In that same presentation, MASBO, which is the Massachusetts Association of School Business Officers, is going to be coming out with best practices around budget reporting. And again, I do think we're meeting a lot of those already, but I just think that's something good to have on our radar so that when it does come out, we can take a look at them and make sure that we're doing all of that properly. An interesting thing that was brought up that I was not aware of and that we are not currently doing is that all donations need to pass through the school committee and be officially accepted, and that includes donations from the PTO.
Like the one she just talked about.
Yeah, all of that, like anything. So the way other districts do it is you can have it be part of a consent agenda, so it's just like a long laundry list, and we just as a bundle approve them all. But the reason it's important is it's in the law, but also if we do not accept donations on behalf of us as SPS, then technically the donation is just to a particular teacher or school or person. Yeah, and there's just can be some like messy ethics stuff that we wouldn't want to have any teacher. Because sometimes teachers will get like a rug or something like that, and we don't want there to be any messiness around that. So it's something that we really should test going forward.
So does that include things like Amazon wish lists though?
Technically,
I mean, I don't know how we're going to keep track of all that stuff at a classroom level.
Yeah, technically yes. I mean, a lot of other districts that talked about it did say that that centrally their district would create some sort of form that people are filling out when they get a donation. There were some positive, there was like a whole laughing discussion about pumpkins in Wellesley and how that was on the agenda for, getting, literally like down to the pumpkin.
Wow.
But the positive that was noted in districts that are doing this is it does help to keep an eye on equity across buildings. Because right now, we honestly don't really know what is going on at all. I mean, some of us do.
$18,000.
There's $18,000,
Yeah.
right? And so, like
we've
it
seen
can
that.
help, as a side effect, to kind of make that a little bit more obvious, which I think could be a positive.
Well, what could we do if we discover that there's huge equity? I mean, we can't do anything, right?
I mean, we can do more than we do now.
Yeah.
I think at least, be able to say, like, we could publish something, or even that. I don't think anyone knows that information, but we
I'm just
probably
saying, I
know
thought
more
we-
than the average.
I'm just saying
So-
PTOs are kind of out of our purview, so.
But they aren't in this way.
Right.
So I think even if PTOs had the data to say, oh, interesting, like this school did this, I think it could be the start. We can't say to a PTO do this or that, but I think if we had that data. Anyway, it's also a part of the law. So
Yeah, I get that.
So yeah, that to me was, I was like, oh gosh, we're definitely not doing this. Everything else, I was like, okay.
Does that include like enrichment programming and?
I think so. I think it's all the
Does it influence
language.
type of curriculum?
We can look it up. It's
To me, the hardest things are like like when a teacher says, if you want to donate to a classroom, that would be the hardest.
That'd be
stuff
sure,
to track.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, like definitely.
Oh, sure does.
Yeah,
Yes.
they do.
So that's something we have to.
Was there any
So we can
first
look up.
step?
We can look up what it says in Chapter 71, Section 37A. That's probably the first step. And then, like I said, most districts that were doing this did say that having some sort of central place where you would have to, don't have to be crazy, but it just has to say, like, what is the thing that's being donated? I don't know if it has to get as specific as dollar amount. And then we would start putting those on an agenda item for us. And like I said, it can be a consent agenda. We do not need to like individually approve every pumpkin. But
monthly or?
Gifts we did tonight,
Mhm.
that could just be one accepting.
Yes, they could have been lumped together, and it could have, included, and it can be something like, I believe it can be like we can read it independently and then just go. So we don't have to.
Just like they do at town meeting.
Yeah, we don't have to enumerate, but it would start the process. It's interesting. Yeah, that was interesting. Oh, and one more other one that I thought was interesting. I went to a session about gifted education, and it was really focused on how behind Massachusetts is as a state on addressing gifted. And they mentioned that they are entertaining the idea of adding a section to the existing IEP that would address kids on the high end of the bell curve, and it would also help address kids who are twice exceptional, meaning they have some areas of challenge and some areas of clear strength, which is many, many kids on IEP. So we're going to have that. And so the IEP would make space to say, like, this child, if you think about kids with dyslexia in particular, like, they may struggle to read, but they may have super high, something else. And so part of ensuring that they are served well and engaged is making sure
like
that
every
those things
kid.
are addressed. That's every kid, exactly.
Right.
But I thought that was interesting and something to kind of keep our eyes on, as they said it would be coming down the pipe. So.
I think one of my last conversations with Bill, he had mentioned he may want to circle back with that and update us, because I know that it's on radar in a sense, some of the gifted sort of end of things, and definitely a huge opportunity area that we need to sort of.
Oh, another interesting part of that was this concept of cluster groupings as being a best practice for kids who are gifted, which feeds in really well to the win blocks.
Yeah. I
And
think that might be where he's
the
at.
idea of like might have made logical sense in the past to say, okay, there's 5, highly gifted kids in this grade. Let's split them up so they're all, kind of across.
Right.
But what best practice shows is that it's much, much better for them to be together.
Yeah.
And because they went into the whole reason why. But in a nutshell, basically, like, kids that are very gifted often look around and are like, I don't belong here. You know, no one here wants to talk about this thing that I want to talk about. I feel very different and very alone. But when they can find another peer who is gifted, even if gifted in a different area, they can have a better connection to each other. And there's a lot of positives to that. So that also, I think, has implications that we can work around.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to speak to that presenter when she was running one of the booths out in the general, outside of the General Assembly Hall, and she was really, really knowledgeable and just, she'd been a parent who went through her school system and just really learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the research on where we used to have models like that in the 90s, and then we went way away from it, and now it's like sort of emerging back out with new research. It was really, really interesting and made absolute sense. So
yeah. She said that it disappeared because of a lot of concern over elitism.
For
but
sure.
if you look at the data, it will show that especially for low-income kids and kids of color who are high performing in elementary school, there tends to then be a split later on because parents who have more means can afford private tutoring and enrichment activities, and so it actually creates a lot of inequity if schools are not a place where students are identified as being gifted and given the enrichment that they need. So I think that's why that research, and she had numbers on like, it was pretty staggering actually. And so she said that is why now Massachusetts is more willing to think about this.
Ms. Lindwall. I went to this session on policy, which wasn't very eye-opening. It was the same old.
Still very important.
It is very important. And I felt ahead of the game because there were a lot of people, well, I mean, there might have been like newbies there that did not understand policy. They had a lot of questions specifically. They were they're very specific questions about policy, whereas, you know, I don't know, I think we're doing a pretty good job. Like, that's what my takeaway was. We're doing a really good job. Like, you know, the whole like posting the meeting and, you know, everything. So, and the second one was about equity audits. And that they basically, like when you do an equity audit, it's really not telling you anything you probably don't know already, like, but it just gets into maybe more specific stuff. And they talked about like street data, so it's more conversational, like students, not, you know, to get more detailed information rather than just like a broad equity audit. They said it. I wrote down money, paperweight, expensive paperweight, useless friends. So, because it's a lot of recommendations of how you're going to do everything. Yeah, but it was interesting. It was good.
Yeah, nice. Mr. Lynch, any key takeaways from your session?
Sure, I just have a couple. I went to one on AI that was run by MASC. They gave some recommendations I'll share with the policy subcommittee. They basically had 5 recommendations. If I interpreted it correctly, one was that MASC will not write a policy on AI, but did have some recommendations for us.
Oh my goodness,
So
that's
I'll share
shocking.
those. It was well attended. Lots of just curious about it. The next one was on longevity of leadership in the district, what it takes. They compared like superintendents with long serving school committee members. Very interesting. A lot about the relationship between superintendents and their school committees, and one on ransomware attacks, which was very interesting. Norton Public Schools told their story, and Bill and I met with Jackie and Tom Rabb and talked about just the steps that a district and town need to take. Good news is I think we're taking lots of those steps very seriously. It's a lot of work if your system is compromised, and student data can be, can be compromised. People can't teach the next day because you can't access your network resources, things like that. So it's very interesting, and so hopefully that's all the information we need about that to protect ourselves and our district. But those were 3 I went to that it's very worthwhile. So thank you also for going down. It was good. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought the topics this year were pretty broad and all had piqued my interest. But I almost didn't go to this one, but I did end up going to one on mental health. It was about specific programming that could be used in different areas of your district. So grade level wise, there were certain mental health strategies, and also how to implement them in clubs and sports, because for obviously some kids, like that's their very safe, trusted adult, so it's someone they would check in with. And so there were definitely some relevant takeaways that I did take more notes on, but it was more about a system that we would purchase as a district and sort of how to implement that at various levels. But it was very interesting and different from what we have now. Is a little bit more comprehensive mental health based program, but it's interesting. And then I did go to 2 communications sessions, both ran by Chris Horan. It was ridiculously, I have pages and pages of notes. I got very excited about all of it. I don't even know where to start. It was so much. It was good to hear sort of perspective wise. We are doing a lot of great things. I think there is a lot we can do to enhance that and take some next steps and sort of fine tune and bring communications into a little bit more intentional kind of pushing out, and then also info gathering. So one of the main things was about a district Facebook page specifically, and that was highly encouraged just as an info push out. Run by the district. I think the question is who does that, who posts, and how we keep up with it, and what sort of content should look like. And it was recommended that school committees work with districts because we have relevant information to share with the community too, and that's a really good vehicle to reach everyone, including people beyond just school-based, but more community-based for us as community representatives. So I don't know. I've got way more, so I'll just end with that. But certainly ongoing conversations with Superintendent Burkhead, Assistant Superintendent Lynch, and all of us on all these topics. Good stuff. Okay. Anything else on that, or we'll move along? We've got Miss Fenwick stepping in for Miss Barkowski for the extremely high time commitment requirements for the negotiations team. We have to have a vote on this as it is part of our subcommittee group.
I make a motion that the school committee vote to replace Carrie Bukowski with Maria Fenwick in the negotiations team.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, old business here, school committee 24-25 goals. Ms. Fenwick and Ms. Barkowski. Turn it over to you.
I did have some conversations with Peter in between the last time we talked about this and now. Do you want to say more, Peter, about what we talked about?
Yeah, just first of all, I think it's fantastic that we have real goals, because I think every year we struggle with this, and these are well written and correct. My comments were, the first comment was I wasn't sure in what order these were, if there was any preference, if goal number 1 was more important than goal number 2, whatever. So that was my first question. I don't think there is, but I just want to mention that. And then I'm struggling a little bit with the wording around goal number 1, and I tried to come up with different wording, and I'm still trying to grasp exactly what our goal here is. I agree that data is important, that we have to understand it. I'm just not quite sure if this is an appropriate as written school committee goal. I guess I'm looking at, we want to understand the data that's given to us, right? But I think that we ultimately want the district to provide us data that allows us to understand student achievement. So I'm trying to figure out kind of what comes first. Do we need to wait for the district to provide us with this data, or do we have to come up with the understanding to ask the right question so that we get the data that we need?
I think it's both. I don't think we can wait because we've been waiting.
Yeah.
And I think what we're trying to avoid is coming to the meeting and having to ask 30 or 40 little questions to get clarification, and we don't get to the big questions, or it takes a long time. And so is there a way to have some of those preliminary conversations and iterate a little bit before the meeting, so that when we come to the meeting, we're being able to talk about, right? And I think what happens is, if we have a data committee or an ad hoc group, we learn, they learn, and eventually we've done so well that we put ourselves out of business, right? That we don't need that anymore, because they understand what the school committee needs, and we understand, and that gets passed along to whomever takes over. Yeah, it's practice, and I think we keep having these conversations. Like the school improvement plan is a perfect example. Like we had if you remember last year, Peter, we had a really hard conversation with our principals, and I think Maria and I were saying afterwards that there are ways that we could have avoided some of that. Because I think, I'll just say it out loud, I think there were some hurt feelings. And it wasn't intentional, right? But like we need to have some information, and they need to know that we need that information. So there are other ways that we could accomplish this, not just in our every other week school committee meeting. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and give them a chance to be successful, like not just come and feel like it's a gotcha moment. Because that's never what we want this to be. So that's sort of the idea.
No, I spend a lot of time. There's some good documentation on data literacy and education, which I didn't know anything about, so it was interesting to hear. I just trying to, I guess, a couple of things. Number one is, if we have these trainings, technically, how does that get facilitated, right? Does it have to be in public, or can we have separate trainings with their entire team, school committee? Or as I look at this, the goal is to have our understanding by the end of this year. Our school committee could be very different in May. So then do we have to continue that? Does this continue to be a goal?
I think that's part of the reason for this, actually, is if we have some standing resources, because when you join the school committee, it's like, welcome to school committee. You know, you take that one training by mass, right?
Yeah.
And that's very like up here. And then there's really nothing else, you know? So I think one of the reasons that I think this is really important is because of turnover. And when new people are coming on, we can say, hey, here's our little like 2-page thing that we've created that helps you understand. Because if we could get someone on the school committee who's never been on before and is coming from an outside field to education, you are going to come in being like, what? Yeah. You know, there's formative data, there's summative data, there's the AP, there's the MCAS, there's the doubles, all of these things that we have learned, either we came in knowing or we've learned. So this would help to eliminate some of that learning.
And I think it could be training, but I think initially it
could be resources.
Yeah, it could be resources, and it's to your point about being public. It's 2 committee members on the meeting, so it doesn't have to be. It's not a quorum or whatever the rule is to have it be public, right?
Yeah, I know, but it's just the second one just said you'll provide
2 brief
trainings. 2 trainings. So I just had to figure out how that was.
Or
I mean,
resources.
I think, to me, a training could even be like a conversation. I don't know. It
could just be a presentation.
Robert's rules, but like a conversation that could be discussion on the agenda.
Yeah.
The discussion is, we're going to talk about X, Y, or Z type of data that we want. That we think everyone should be on the same page about.
I don't
think it has to be like formal.
No, I have no issue with the goal. Just it was kind of how it was written and how we're going to actually facilitate it. But we'll see how it goes, right? The goals are meant to be.
I mean, is it easy to organize it as part of almost like a workshop/retreat item or anything? Since that's an annual occurrence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's yes and, right? It's like creating resources, having meetings now that will inform whatever happens in a retreat each summer or something.
Yeah.
That was those were my only comments. I went to bed like a couple nights like, why am I not like fully on board with this? I had a hard time grasping it all. That's all.
Yeah.
But I do agree that that data is important, but we also need to let the district know that data is important. I
just think to Carrie's point though, what we've seen in the past is like everything from no data at all to all kinds of data to the point where it's overwhelming, to graphs that we're like, oh, what does that mean? You know, like because each presentation is different, and that's partly because each subject area or grade has different sources. And so we're not going to eliminate that piece of it, but if we can at least come in like a head above where we are currently coming in, I think, again, what Carrie said about providing clarity for whoever's presenting so that they feel confident in knowing that they've given us what we need and we are like, great, we have what we need. You know, I think right now it just feels like too much of a guessing game.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll take a vote on this. Yeah. Yes, we'll take a vote on it.
I make a motion that the school committee vote the 2024-2025 school committee goals as presented.
A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Just on that, and one of the goals is, communication, right? Is that one of the goals?
Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to give an update on, I think I was tasked with that before. I reached out to Andrew on the select board and he volunteered, or he said, yes, it's totally fine for us to attend the weekly updates. We're now just trying to figure out the frequency of that. It was recommended that we do that weekly instead of monthly. So we just got this information today, so we just have to facilitate this as we initiate this, come up with a cadence of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. I think we have to define what we're going to try to accomplish on the monthly or weekly updates, and then we can define the frequency of it. But I'll continue to coordinate and let everyone know. I don't anticipate the first one until the end of January.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. We have minutes to approve from November 4th. And no questions? Anybody else questions?
Just quickly on the leadership report, just says the financial forecast committee met, and it says the schools will receive $895,000. It should be an additional $895,000. An additional $895,000.
Not just.
We would be in trouble if we only had $895,000. But the rest of it is correct. It says it's an increase, but it should say will receive an additional $895,000.
All right.
I make a motion that the school committee vote to approve the November 4th, 2024 minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Warrants for tonight. Correspondences. Any other business? Future agenda items.
Just that donation procedure. We'd have to figure out how and when we want to do
Can you
that.
say the number again?
Yeah.
I tried to look it up, but couldn't.
Yeah. Let's see.
Chapter 70.
Chapter 71, section 37A.
47A?
37A.
37. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. Okay, if nothing else, take motion to adjourn here tonight at not that late, or very late, 8:30.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.